Hi, Nina. Are you all right? Okay, all right. It's 4:01 p.m. in Malaysia. So let's just give it another, say, like 4 minutes so we can start officially with while waiting for the other participants to join in. So in the meantime, you can get some water, or if you like to go for a toilet break, then you may do so. So you could enjoy the session later, fully concentrate.
Hi,
Hi, Nina.
I'm so sorry. I had a lot of issues this morning.
Oh, okay, no worries. Glad that you are in already. So for the participants who just came in, we will be starting in 2 minutes time, yeah?
All right, okay.
So in the meantime, you can get some water, or if you want to go for a toilet break.
Okay, thank you.
All right, no worries. Okay, it's sharp 4:05 p.m. in Malaysia. So is everyone ready? So we can start the session. So you can put like a thumbs up or like an emoji, or you can just type it in the chat so the speakers could know you as well. If you're all ready, then we can start now. Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to the Rebound Special Panel Discussion organized in conjunction with International Women's Day 2022, titled Digital Inclusion for Women to #Break the Bias. We have lined up an exciting panel comprising 3 women from all over the world who have harnessed technology to help women find new pathways and opportunities in breaking their own biases. On behalf of the Rebound team, we would like to take this opportunity to thank HYBR, Jacaranda Hub, and Connected Women for collaborating with us in this initiative. I'm Jean, and I will be your MC and also tech support for the session. Before we begin, just a few protocol to ensure everything runs smoothly. So right now, I will be sharing you my screen. All right, so everyone can see the screen. Okay, so first of all, and the most important thing is that please mute your microphone while the trainer or others are speaking. Number 2, make use of the chat box for questions and also comments, or you can raise your hand and turn on your mic. Do engage with the class during Q&A session. And please feel welcome to have your video on. We love to get to know you. And please edit your screen name so we know what to call you by. And this session is also being recorded and being live streaming for recording and reporting purposes. Besides that, we will be also taking group photos as in screenshots, which we may share on our social media. So please turn off your camera if you do not want to be shared, do not want your picture to be shared online. And then please ensure the safety of your home is taken care of when you are in a virtual session. Do tell someone. And last but not least, participate to get the most out of the session and enjoy your learning journey. So here's the basic protocol and also like rules to when you're in a session. Okay, so just a quick background. Rebound is a career comeback program helping Malaysian women to upskill and discover new career opportunities. With the gender disparity in the tech industry, we also aim to help women with greater tech adoption. It is designed and delivered by the TechSprint Academy, Malaysia's first women-only coding academy. It is also supported by the Asia Foundation. Rebound has already supported hundreds of women across the country to discover new career and economic opportunities. So before we begin, let's take a group photo, shall we? Is everyone ready? So do turn on your cameras and give us your biggest smile if you are comfortable to do so. We hope to see more faces if you are comfortable to be featured online. Any more? Can we see more faces? Or maybe it's too early. It's okay. We'll be taking another one at the end of the sessions too. So do stay until the end so we can get a complete nice group photo. So right now I will be taking a group photo in 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, let's take one more, yeah, just in case someone closes their eyes or is not ready yet. Ready in 3, 2, 1. Thank you so much, everyone, for your cooperation. All right, so now for the session today, we will have Nawa Lindunda as the moderator for the session. So we hope you enjoy and will benefit from the discussion. And without further ado, I now pass over the floor to Nawa.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I am so excited to be moderating this panel discussion with these 3 amazing women. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope we do have an amazing and fruitful discussion and everybody participates so that it's engaging and people get the most, as Jen has said, so people get the most out of this session. So like mentioned, my name is Nawa Loiwa Lindunda, and I am the programs manager at Jacaranda Hub. Jacaranda Hub is a social enterprise and ecosystem builder, and we support startups with business development skills and transitioning them from concept through idea and essentially getting them to market. We also support startups with access to markets and access to finance. And we essentially want to be able to create such a vibrant entrepreneur ecosystem. That being said, I would like to then introduce my panel. And
is everything all right? Now we may be having some technical difficulties. This happens all the time when you're doing a session online. So just bear with her and give us a few seconds. She is joining back again.
Okay. The downside of the internet, virtual connections.
Hey, Nawa.
apologies for that. We just experienced the blackouts in the building, so internet got cut off, but the generator has kicked in. Unfortunately, that was not a seamless transition. So back to us, I'll just reiterate. My name is Nawa Loiwa Lindunda, and I'm the programs manager for Jacaranda Hub. Jacaranda Hub is a social enterprise and entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem builder based in Lusaka, Zambia. And we support startups with business development services that allow them to transition their ideas into viable and scalable businesses. Additionally, we also create platforms for startups to network, co-create, access finance and markets. So the theme for today is digital inclusion for women to support #breaking the bias. And to have this exciting conversation with me are three amazing women that are doing exciting things across the world. And my first panelist is Gina Romero. I hope I have pronounced that right. Gina describes herself as an unconventional entrepreneur and community builder. So Gina is currently the CEO and co-founder of Connected Women, which specializes in empowering women through entrepreneurship, freelancing, and remote work. She's passionate about inclusive innovation, women economic empowerment, digital economy, AI, and the future of work. Away from Gina we have Amina Ahmad Nagogo. She is a social entrepreneur, founder and CEO of Datam. I hope I pronounced that right, a company with a passion for developing tools for data-driven decision-making in the fields of public health and education. Amina is committed to utilizing technology in underserved communities to enhance efficiency of healthcare service delivery. And my third panelist is none other than Noluvuyo Gadu. Noluvuyo is the founder of Code Nwane, which teaches children from disadvantaged areas how to code. Nolu is a published author and has written stories about technology for kids, including a coding encyclopedia that has been translated into isiXhosa and Setswana. Ladies, welcome, and please, I am so happy to have you three on this panel to discuss digital inclusion for women.
Thanks, Nawa. Hi, everyone. Good to be here.
Thanks,
Okay,
Nawa.
I've only heard one. Where are my other two panelists? Are we here?
Yep, thank you. Thanks, Nawa.
Okay, perfect. Just so we can set the scene and the tone of this conversation, looking at digital inclusion, with regards, of course, to breaking the bias. I think I'll start with you, Gina. In the context of digital inclusion, what does it really mean to use digital inclusion as part of breaking the bias?
Thank you. Thanks, Nawa. Hi, everyone. It's really great to be here. So Connected Women's core advocacy is around creating opportunities for women in the future of work. Most of our initiatives are in upskilling and then job creation. So basically, we upskill women in different types of technology skills, and then we help them either work with us on projects where we work with clients and provide services in the digital tasks and artificial intelligence space, or we help them upskill themselves so they can be part of the digital economy as freelancers or entrepreneurs. So the main reason behind our advocacy is because we believe that tech-powered, flexible work and location-independent work is game-changing for women. Growing up in the UK, my mom was actually a domestic worker. So my mom's Filipina. She left the Philippines back in the 70s and moved to the UK. And I was surrounded by Filipinos who had left their families behind to look for work outside. So the opportunities were not coming back to the Philippines. And this is still the case, sadly, even now. We're still losing a lot of talent, a lot of mothers and fathers who leave the country. So for us, it's all about making sure that we allow accessibility to the tech world for women, for Filipino women, even those from underserved segments. And I'm sure you all know the tech world is inherently still biased against women. So, we need to make sure that we break the bias in terms of access to tools, access to platforms, access to digital finance, digital entrepreneurship, and of course, skills. So these are the areas that we try to address.
Great, thank you for that. Moving on to you, Nolu. I know you're a firm believer in contextualizing solutions that we bring to our countries or to our communities. How would you say the digital space is right now in your country? And also, how are you in the work that you're doing? How are you supporting women as they break the bias through digital inclusion?
So in terms of digital space in my country, in South Africa, one of the challenges that we're still experiencing is access to technology and access to the internet. And we still have a few women within tech spaces. And this is why in the work that I do and in context to breaking the bias, I'm committed to inclusion in terms of including kids in this digital roadmap, because if we don't train them young, then we'll always find an ecosystem when it comes to technology where there's people who are excluded within the system, and excluded mainly sometimes because of their economic circumstances and economic positions. So I think a lot of work is being done in South Africa, but we're still experiencing major challenges when it comes to access to technology and internet being expensive and inaccessible.
That's interesting, because we do also have a similar situation here in Zambia when it comes to connectivity and accessibility of ICT tools. So in that regard, understanding that in as much as some of these problems are quite similar across the board. Amina, coming to you, how important is it that we take advantage of digital spaces as women, in the context of really us having more choices, but also being able to dictate what we engage in? So just rephrasing that question, Amina, how important is it that we take advantage of digital services, or really get into the learning of how to utilize digital spaces?
Thanks for that question, Nawa. So just a background, I will take this from the marginalized community point of view. Digital technology is no longer something new or a luxury in this part of the world. It has been embedded in almost every sector. So health, education, payment services, and so on. So fully participating in the utilization of these services or in the digital economy as a whole, women need digital skills,
Yeah.
right? So in rural areas, particularly, women that do not have like mobile phones, or those that do have mobile phones, some are already like, taking advantage of that, starting their own small businesses by accessing like online markets to sell local made snacks. You'll see them on Facebook, social media like Instagram and so on, selling products, from small scale products to like agricultural produce, which gives them that financial independence. So they're generating income for themselves, their families, and their communities. This is actually a win, not just for the women, but the society in general. This is something that we have been facing in some of the programs we are doing in the maternal and child health sector. So we have that lack of digital literacy, and some, like a small percentage, are utilizing that, but not with much support from the community or the government. And if we invest in that, or if we equip women with such digital skills, research has shown that when women earn, they tend to reinvest back into the families and communities at a much higher rate than men. So it's a win, not just for the community, for the woman, but for the community in general. We need to help women develop digital skills. This translates not just like strong women. I don't like that word, by the way, strong woman, like maybe resilient. Like, I think it's better to say resilient or independent, because pardon my language, but when you say strong, like a lot of bullshit keeps being put to women because they are perceived as strong. Okay, so independent women, independent families, and stronger communities, and better technology. So I'm talking here with the consumption of technology, and we also need women to participate in the design of this technology. We do need women in the design of the products themselves, because there is also gender bias when it comes to these products, because mostly they are designed by men. There was I don't know the details of this, but there was an experiment on machine learning on Google or somewhere in the US. I can't remember the exact details, but there was a situation where the results depicted women as homemakers, cooking, laundry and all that, while men are shown in managerial position, doctors, playing football, or programmers, and that perceptions tend to hinder the progress made in bridging that gap of gender equality. So it is very important to continue building communities of women, with digital skills, for them to effectively participate in the digital economy, which is the case nowadays.
Interesting. You mentioned some of the biases that are in the community that you're coming from. I want to take us back maybe just a little and pose this question to the three of you. What would you say would be the origins of these biases? Because essentially, well, our societies are so structured in a way that the mothers are the nurturers, or the women are the nurturers and the homemakers, and essentially are tasked with the upbringing of the children. What would you say, contextually looking at your own communities, would you say are the origins of some of these biases? And essentially then how do we start to break them? Because if we're looking at behavioral change or systemic change, we have to understand what the root cause is. So I'll pose this to Gina. What would you say are some of the origins of these biases?
I'm enjoying this discussion so much already. It's such an interesting conversation to have the perspective coming from all different regions, right? So, I mean, I think the funny thing is we have so many commonalities. I mean, you know, aside from access, right? Aside, you know, access to devices, data, connectivity, skills, and all the rest, a lot of it really still, in my opinion, boils down to social norms, right? I mean, even in this day and age, I still hear grandparents, parents, aunts, you know, saying that's for boys, or give that to your sister, or, you know, you do this, you're a boy, or don't lift that, it's too heavy. Like these biases that we reinforce. And sometimes, I mean, I do it as well sometimes, you know what I mean? We're not even aware of the fact that we're contributing to the problem. So I think we need to be really, really careful. Forget the government level and the policy level and everything else. As individuals in our homes, let's start there. You know, how are we treating our sons and daughters differently? Are we holding them to different expectations and different standards? Are we telling the daughter to get back early and letting the son stay out at night? These types of things, right? And then on top of that, I think you know, just access to the right type of media. Like, are we giving our children access to the true picture, where women are also scientists, women are also engineers, right? And not just princesses, which is still super common. Like, all the girls are princesses still. You never see a girl fireman. And if they are a girl fireman, then the other girls are questioning it, right? We're ridiculously still too far away from making even these most basic changes, I think.
Oh, interesting.
Fire person. There you go. Fire person, not fire man.
There we go.
Firefighter.
It's all about the contribution that you are doing in the various spaces of spheres of influence that we have in order to break the bias. How do we make sure that the spaces that we occupy are inclusive in the context of workspace, for example, a workplace, for example? If you've got a team of women and the role, and the woman is a mom, and the role at times requires her to come at awkward hours that are not supporting her family life, how do you enhance? How do you make sure that you take that into consideration? And I always say that men will always appear to be progressing faster because the system enables them. And when it comes to women, the system doesn't take into consideration all that's at play, that you are a career woman, you are a mother, you've got responsibilities at home, and therefore you take the view that we are equal, and no one is superior than other, but we need to embrace each other in order to achieve great things with it holistically, and not just look at one side of the puzzle.
Interesting. And particularly for you, Nono, I would like to commend what you're doing, really with looking at the very little ones and getting them started at such a young age. mindset transformation cannot be overemphasized when it comes to changing what our narrative is. And what I pick up from what both you and Gina have mentioned is really representation and how we are structuring our narrative in our communities. Essentially, this is where our biases are stemming from. But Nolo, also back to you. Why do you believe that coding is the key to solving Africa's problems? And why are you honestly starting at such a young age?
So one of the reasons why I believe coding is the key to solving Africa's problems, if you look at Africa in general, we are diverse in terms of the languages that we speak, in terms of the cultures we have in Africa. But if there's one thing that connects us, or if there's one thing that we have in common, it's around technology. Whether I speak a different language to you, the one thing that we have in common is technology. And why I think it's key for kids who are the next generation of the future digital workforce is, personally, I want to see African kids devoted to solving our unique African-related problems, and not just raise kids to be consumers of technology, but to be in a position to be able to contribute to technology. So we want to solve our own problems at home and not rely on the West and our neighbors to solve problems they think are problems to us.
Yes. Absolutely. I'm also a firm believer in Africans need to solve Africa's problems. Essentially, that is our best way of changing the narrative, I think, for all the regions across the globe. And it's interesting you talk about technology connects us all. Amina, coming to you, you're a huge advocate of data-driven solutions, so to say. Why do you think data is so underrated, and why are we not using it more effectively and efficiently in informing us really in how we make decisions, how we create policy, and essentially in our governance structures? Amina, are you still with us? Okay. I don't know if we have lost Amina, but I'll move along and go to Gina. Your work with Connected Women is really looking at essentially how we can be part of the digital economies and how women should essentially have the largest market share. Why was it important for you to raise awareness about careers in tech and really building communities of women around women in the tech industry?
Thank you. Did I manage to unmute?
Yes.
My Zoom window completely vanished and it's gone. But thankfully I can still hear you. So I hope Amina comes back, because I was really looking forward to her answer. So for us, it's really similar to some of the things that were mentioned earlier in the call about independence, right? I mean, women, I think financial independence is a big part of what we're trying to achieve, giving access to income, right? And bringing that income to your home, because a lot of women are restricted, of course, to the home, or at least to their local geographic location. So bearing in mind that we still haven't solved the childcare burden, right? Or the unpaid care work burden, technology is a way that we can sort of allow access to work in the home. So that's one of our primary focuses, is how can we provide remote work, right? Remote work and flexible remote work that women can do in between taking care of the kids until that gets solved. But at the end of the day, it's all about, we have a really diverse community. We have a big community, around 50,000 active in the Philippines, 75,000 in total. And they come from different backgrounds. Some are ex-corporate women. They've been very successful in their career, but they were forced out of the workforce because the workforce conditions don't suit their child care or whatever else. Some of the women are coming from really grassroots areas where they haven't had the opportunity to study, to get educated, and they just don't have exposure to the skills that they need. But one thing that is common to all of them across the spectrum is they're all looking for ways to earn, to have financial independence. And I think, you know, again, that could be just a matter of having the dignity of earning your own cash, right? Regardless of what socioeconomic background you come from. Or it could be a matter of life and death, because if you're in an abusive relationship and you can't leave because you can't feed yourself and your children, then you're really trapped in that situation. So I think making sure that women are independent and resilient, both words that were mentioned earlier, and not just strong, I think are really important. And that is what Connected Women is really all about.
Fascinating. I'm not sure if Amina is back with us.
Yes, Nina is back.
Okay, perfect. Amina, I had posed the question earlier as Nolu had made some leading remarks towards data. And I know that you're an advocate of data-driven solutions in, well, particularly you're concentrating with the public health sector. But really, I wanted to just pick your mind on why you feel, one, that data is underutilized and how best we can efficiently and effectively use data to be able to, well, close the digital divide.
Yeah, so a lot of data is being collected by development partners, by government agencies, and all that. And truly, they do understand that data is important to inform policy, decision making, but they seem to leave out the equity of that data. Like, they don't disaggregate it by not just gender, but other attributes like locality, education background, age group, you know. In Nigeria alone, we have hundreds of tribes. What the solution that might be applicable in one region might not work for the other region, even if it's just a few kilometers away. We have different cultures, different societal norms. So what I'm trying to do is bring in that data equity, present it to government agencies, decision makers that are, you know, coming up with interventions that addresses, you know, issues, particularly women's issues. For example, in the maternal and child health program we're doing, we are tracking pregnant women, you know, encouraging them to go to health facilities for, you know, antenatal care or routine immunization for their babies. But as we were doing that, the pilot test, we realized that a lot of people, a lot of women actually go for that antenatal care, like at the beginning of their pregnancy. But when it comes to delivery, they deliver at home. And the data didn't make sense. Like, I was the one, my organization were the one actually collecting that data and presenting it to the government for decision making. But then we were capturing information like locality, education background of those women. And we noticed that those that have closer proximity to the health facility go to the health facility for deliveries. But those further away don't go for deliveries. But they both go for antenatal care.
Amina, we've lost you.
Yes, we lost her again.
Okay.
We need to know why.
Oh my God, that was so good.
interesting.
I'm so sad that she's dropped off. I hope she can come back on and complete her thoughts on that. Gina, I would like to pick your mind on this. And there's a narrative around women not supporting women. For instance, why do you think it's important that we should build resilient communities of women around women? And more essentially, there's also another narrative when it comes to the tech industry that really it's not for women. How are you, through Connected Women, changing this narrative and making the tech industry desirable for women to take up space?
Such a great question. Well, I guess with the women, I think the women not helping women thing must be very specific to certain sectors, or, you know, I mean, I think that some of these things happen in pockets and places and industries and different things. And I haven't really experienced that personally. I don't know if it's because the entrepreneurship space is more supportive compared to, say, the corporate space, which is not my background. But I do hear a lot of that type of very competitive behavior happening in the corporate world, right? Maybe less so in entrepreneurship, because as entrepreneurs, especially small businesses, collaboration is really key, right, to success. So I think, you know, that's a tricky one to answer. It probably needs a discussion at its own panel. So I'll leave it at that. But I think for in terms of creating accessibility, so one of our programs that we're really proud of, we launched it with UN Women in at the height of the pandemic in 2020. It's called Elevate IDA. And we created that program because we were initially training women for the freelancing industry. So we were creating a job matching platform so that women could find freelance jobs on our platform. And Philippines is really fast growing in the freelance industry. We were the 6th fastest growing in the year in 2019 in the world. And then I think in 2020, there was another study that said we were first in the world. So it's a very active freelancing community, and young as well. But the thing is it's very competitive in terms of skills. If you want to compete on Upwork or these types of global platforms for the gig economy, it's super competitive. And we found that we were turning away, like, a lot of women who were applying, who really needed the jobs the most, were actually getting turned away because they just wouldn't be able to win the work. So, you know, it kind of went against our mission to be turning away 80 to 90% of our applicants, right? So we wanted to create something that was more accessible. And so we started looking at jobs like tech jobs, like artificial intelligence data labeling, that can be really taught to anyone with, you know, at the entry level with a basic device, basic connectivity. But a lot of the time it's a matter of convincing the women themselves, right? Like, this is something that you can do. So we run a paid training. It's a free training for the ladies to attend, and we pay them an allowance to join so that it covers their basic needs and also gives them, you know, the incentive to be part of this training. And then once they've participated, they tend to be a little bit more confident that this is something that they can do. So I think that helps a lot. But incentivizing women to try, I think, is really important.
Thank you for that. I want to jump on to Nolu, and seeing as you have made deliberate efforts in contextualizing most of the work that you're doing by translating the encyclopedia, but also making sure that a lot of the work or the stories that you write are in the local languages. Why is this so? Nolu?
Sorry, I'm on mute. Sorry, I'm on mute. I'm on mute. I was just going on. Barriers in how we teach technology, even through language. And if we only teach technology in English, in my view, we are already putting it at a pedestal and making it inaccessible by driving the narrative that it's a subject of the privilege. Wanted to bring it closer to home, because the reason why I'm doing work with the kids in technology and in coding, particularly in computational thinking space, is to one day create future leaders who are able to solve problems digitally. So in order for these future leaders to be able to bring to be able to solve the
Nolu, we've lost you.
I think because of the unstable internet connection.
Yeah. I don't know if Amina is back, so we can.
Yes.
finish that. Amina, are you back with us or no?
Amina, if you are speaking, you are on mute, yeah, because we can't hear you.
Okay, it'll end up being a conversation between myself and Gina. And I'm
Hi
loving
guys,
all your insights, Gina.
Amina's back, I think. Are you back, Amina? I think I heard you.
yeah.
Yay. There you go. I need to
all
hear the
right.
answer to what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, I don't know, Amina, if you would want to just pick up from where unfortunately you cut off. You can absolutely just jump in.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So my network is really horrible.
Yeah.
Can you give me like 1 minute to switch to my mobile phone just in case?
Not a problem. I think then we'll go back to Nolu so you can just finish your thoughts.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
All right. So I was saying, when you teach technology in African languages, you are making it easy for the kids to be able to bring it closer to home and to relate to it. You make, you're not creating barriers and making it a subject that's very far. So you want the kids to engage with it without having language as a barrier.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I second those thoughts, and I think this is essentially should be applicable across the world. Essentially driving all these ideas home and contextualizing them, making them digestible within our communities. I think it's important that translation needs to happen across the board as part of digital inclusion. Gina, I'd like to get to you because I heard you speak about gig economies. So as you're advocating for women to get into the tech space, how available really are the jobs? Because creating the skills and upskilling the women is one thing, but then are they able to still find jobs? So is that connection there? Are they able to easily find jobs? And if they are able to find jobs, are they well paying jobs?
Another killer question. It's a really good one. It's a challenge, to be honest. So there are different sides to it. So if you're a really good experienced freelancer and you can compete in the global, on the global digital platforms, then there's lots of work. So I think that, there's just so much work, and businesses are becoming, especially through COVID and everything else, businesses are becoming more comfortable with remote workers, remote staff, freelance staff, having to cut costs, all these different things. So I think people are getting more creative. So I think there's lots of work out there if you know how to find it. And that's a learning curve in itself, right? Like any type of job seeking or client generation. But I think for those who are coming from disadvantaged groups, it's too difficult. The barrier to entry is too hard. So they really need initiatives like Connected Women, where we're bridging the gap. I mean, we're talking to companies all the time, looking for those who are willing to outsource, do socially responsible outsourcing and give work to us. But I think the good thing is that because there's so much work in data, right? Like handling data, cleaning data, managing data, there's definitely a talent gap, right? There's definitely a need for this type of work. But the difficult bit is bridging the gap and also convincing companies that they should work with us so we can give jobs to women, and making sure that they don't have incorrect assumptions about the quality of work, the efficiency, the delivery, right? When you're working with disadvantaged groups, you really have to prove that your service is going to be just as good, if not better, than everybody else's.
Yeah, definitely. Amazing. Amina, if you're with us, I would like to get back to you so you can finish your thoughts on how we can best utilize data and effectively use it to inform our decision making. So I hope you've managed to transition to your mobile internet and we can continue that conversation.
Yeah. Again,
Great.
apologies for all this. By the way, I'm staying in the Federal Capital Territory, like the capital of Nigeria, and I'm facing internet difficulty. Imagine those, living
Further
in rural communities, like when we're talking about digital inclusion and internet penetration. anyways, so I was talking about our findings after further research about why, like, women that both go for antenatal care services, like only 90% actually deliver in the hospital. So we did a focus group discussion together with the data that we have at hand, and found out that the women that actually go for antenatal care, even though the distance is much, they understand the importance of going to health facilities for services, and for the safety of their children and for themselves. And at that early stage, they can actually walk to the health facility, for those services. But as the due date comes closer, they're too weak and too heavy to walk that distance. That's why they don't actually go to the health facility to give birth. Like according to data, okay, everyone is going to health facility for antenatal care, but home delivery is not being done deliveries is not being done in facilities. So if that data is not disaggregated further by other contexts or other attributes, the government just perceives that those women don't know the importance of going to health facilities for delivery. That's why we are trying to strengthen data collection, bringing that equity lens to data. We need to improve and strengthen data quality in terms of collection, demand, and promote the use of data. Without quality data on women's participation or representation or livelihood, it will be difficult to showcase the issues surrounding gender digital inclusion to policymakers. So organizations, development partners, the government need to improve on that aspect of data collection and bringing an equity lens to better, understand the limitation and implication of it on how to guide policy and inform development agendas. And there should be comparison along the way also, like monitoring and evaluation to assess the impact of those policies or development agendas that have been implemented to further inform policymakers on the existing gaps and trends when it comes to women welfare. I know the discussion is about women, but I think in this case it's the society as a whole, like gender, yeah. That's all I had to say about the data part.
Thank you for actually preempting, because you've already mentioned that developmental agencies and government essentially should use data as they, support developmental agendas. How challenging or how easy is it in Nigeria or in other communities that you've worked with across the continent or in the globe? How easy has it been really to bring the government on board in the conversation of data used to inform decision making?
Yeah, so I think a lot of progress, like I have to give them that, like a lot of progress have been done. Almost every aspect of the economy, all sectors use data, especially in the public health and education sector. It's just like the quality of the data, not just data, but the quality of that data. I've been working on like health financing activities, providing transparency and accountability of the funds that go to primary healthcare centers through data. They are interested in that, like to see what money is being spent in health facilities, how it is being spent, on what it is being spent. Has the quality of the health services improved because of that funding? Is the funding being diverted? When it comes to human resource for health, like the distribution of nurses and doctors across communities in the country, that the data bring that information that, in health facilities where deliveries are being made, what type of health worker is there? Because there are communities that don't allow male medical doctors to kind of like, check on their wives or girls. So there is that societal norm. In those societies, what type of health workers are there to ensure that there is uptake of primary healthcare services within that community?
Yeah, so there's a lot of data demand and a lot of data use in Nigeria. Really, it's quite impressive. It's just that equity lens to data. That's the issue, and that's what we are trying to address at the moment.
Great. I'm happy that the government in Nigeria is really supporting this effort or is making strides in essentially getting to a point where they're effectively using data. But of course, like you point out, it's important that the data quality is also taken into account. I'm not coming down to you in South Africa. Giving a context of our Zambian scenario, it has been very difficult to transition the government operations into digital spaces, whether it comes to payments, record keeping, and all that. How has it been in South Africa for you to get the government on board in supporting your agenda?
So where we are in South Africa, we are starting to have the conversations and also are starting to be in a point where we start implementing some of these solutions to these challenges. But the big one is our government departments having systems that aren't speaking to each other, and also having our government departments working in solo or in silos. So it feels like we are reduplicating the effort because there's no integration or alignment between our business departments. You'll find, for example, a Ministry of Home Affairs doing some levels of integration on their own, but then you find the systems aren't talking to another department, and at times it can get frustrating. And I think beyond just for us wanting to go digital and to have these systems, if these systems aren't integrated or talking to each other, there's no power in them. And it's one of the big realization that government needs to have. We need to have seamless experiences in our traffic departments, in our home affairs. We can't go in pockets in different places just to find a piece of information. So I think the power with technology is making it speak together and integrating it. And as far as integration is concerned, we're not even close to achieving that as a country.
Interesting. We keep coming back to the same conversation that a lot of these issues are affecting our different localities. The similarities are honestly polarizing. One department is going to send you to another department, and they could easily create an integrated system that would allow for easy service delivery. But I guess governments also have to take in, it has to be a mindset transformation to really get them to the point where they really digitize their operations. Gina, your thoughts? And in the Philippines, how is this working? Is the government on board in terms of moving digital? And really with the work that Connected Women is doing, how is the government supporting those efforts?
Yeah, it's so good to hear these commonalities that we're having, because we have very, very similar challenges in the Philippines. I mean, we're an island group that's broken up, right, into 7,000 plus islands, and we also have different languages, and everything is very sort of how do you even describe it? Like it's just disconnected, right? Physically and technologically. But I think our government is very proactive, I have to say. Like, so I came back to the Philippines in 2016, having spent most of my life in the UK, some of my life in Singapore, around 6 years. But I was actually very pleasantly surprised with how proactive the government is here. I mean, there's a lot of initiatives dedicated to improving infrastructure and policy. We have digital cities. We have an AI roadmap. It's still early stages. We have policies like the National Digital Careers Act, the Digital Workforce Competitive Act. So there's definitely a lot happening here, because I think the opportunity is so huge, right? And we're seeing really very good connectivity, I think very good. But again, I'm in the city. It's a problem in the remote areas, but you know, our connectivity increased over 100% in the last 12 months for both fixed line and mobile data. And our penetration is around 68% as of 2022. So it's pretty good. But interesting, going back to the topic about data, is that so one study, I wanted to know sort of like what's the penetration by gender, and it said around 50% of internet users in the Philippines were female, 41% were male. It's not that I don't trust the data, but I don't trust the data when it comes to gender data, because it's exactly what's been discussed, right? The data isn't being collected in such a way that we can really trust that is the case, because globally, women are not getting connected as much as men, right? This is a known fact. But then I'm wondering, who are those 50% of women who are online? So, you know, there's a lot more work to be done, I think, in really understanding what's going on. But I was very pleasantly surprised when I came back to the Philippines that our connectivity is a lot better than I heard. But our traffic is actually worse than what I expected. And I thought it would be bad.
Oh, interesting. I just want to put it out there to everybody who's with us. Please feel free to post your questions in the chat box. And as we are getting to our 1 hour mark, if anybody has a question, just put your hand up and we can address those questions as we go along. Jin, please let me know if we can go in a little further. I know we set this discussion for an hour.
Yeah, definitely now, because we started like 5 minutes late, right? So technically you have another like 4 minutes officially. But since the topic is like going so interesting, I don't think the participants would mind anyway.
Okay, great. So just to reiterate, if you've got any questions, just put your hand up and Jean will be able to unmute you and you can ask the participants what your question is. As we are getting to the close of our discussion, and it's been such an insightful discussion, understanding what's going on in the Philippines, Nigeria, and in South Africa. As we wind up on this conversation, Nolu, what would you say is one of the biggest challenges that you are currently facing? And essentially, how are you proposing to tackle that?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Well, now we're not hearing you anymore.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, please go ahead. Okay, Nolu, we'll come back to you. We cannot hear you, unfortunately. Amina, I want to jump to you. Looking at your work that you've done with developmental agencies and the government in really emphasizing that decisions should be informed by data, but more so looking at how service delivery can be improved in the public health sector. What do you think needs immediate attention for there to be enhanced collaboration, but also enhanced service delivery in the public health sector when it comes to digital inclusion and women?
Yeah, I think, okay, so for example, one of the programs we are trying to scale up at the moment deals with how to effectively encourage community ownership. So like not the government coming to based on what they think that should exist in that community, you know, place infrastructures that are not contextualized to that community. I've encountered stakeholders within the like traditional leaders and birth attendants that say like, okay, they come and did this, but they didn't inform us like the reason behind this, or they come and collect this data, but they didn't inform us what they did with the data. So that ownership and feedback mechanism between government and community. And when it comes to inclusion of women, like they shouldn't just be seen as women. They are human beings participating in a community. Like, I still don't understand that gender inequality. I know it's a societal norm, but I don't understand why another sector has to benefit at the risk of, putting down the other sector or gender. It's not just about gender, but the other things like, physical disabilities and stuff like that. Everyone needs to come in to own whatever intervention is being done that affects their livelihood, so that they can have a happy, healthy life. And the definition of that happiness is not up to someone else, you know? Yeah. So whatever the government is doing or whatever intervention is being implemented, I hope, or I encourage, the perception that, everyone has equal rights to have a healthy, happy life. Like, it doesn't matter whether he's a man, she's a woman, age group, physical disabilities, because that's another issue as well. Maybe health services are being developed or facilities are being developed without consideration of those physically disabled. How do they access facilities in that clinic? How are they being attended to? Things like that. So whatever we do, let's just consider each other as human beings.
Well said, Amina. Well said. Gina, coming to you. What are you looking forward to doing next as part of the Agenda for Connected Women? What are your next steps in terms of enhancing what you're already doing?
Yeah, so you hit the nail on the head earlier. Now, when you talked about the job side, our main we've proven that we can train women and that they can do the job. So we know that women can do the job and they're good at it. They start with the basic and they upskill quickly. So we've seen that happen. Our clients have seen it, but we need to push more in terms of, on the commercial side of our business, which is making more clients aware of what we're doing so that they hire us, and the benefits of hiring from us, and the social responsibility side as well, how this makes a difference and benefits everyone, exactly as was said earlier. And I think, on the advocacy side, we just have to keep on talking about it, right? Platforms like this are amazing because unfortunately, it's still not a known issue, right? People that are making decisions still don't understand the problems, not properly. I think they understand it maybe on a very basic level, but they're not really understanding the problems at a level that they can make the change that needs to be changed. So we just have to keep talking about it and pushing. I think this panel was an example of women just working with what we've got, right? And pushing through the challenges. And we do it very well. So I think advocacy is like that, isn't it? You just have to keep pushing.
Oh, thank you for that. Nolo, I'd want to get your thoughts. But if we're still having technical difficulties with you, I'll go back to Gina and Amina. Just your last thoughts. What would be the one takeaway you would want everybody who's been part of this discussion to have as we conclude? So Amina, I'll go with you first.
Okay.
Oh, Nolo, great, perfect. Please go ahead.
So my thoughts on a way forward in order to break the bias or the stereotype is not for us to only have these engagements or conversation once a year when it's Women's Day, but for us to continuously keep each other accountable, and for us to continuously have these conversations and always look at opportunities of how we can be more inclusive, how we can empower the girl child, how we can empower the Black child when it comes to access to technology.
Well said, Nolo. Amina, your parting thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Nolo said. Also, like, maybe we should also look at ourselves, like those small habits we do to encourage that gender bias. For example, we say maternal leave. Why maternal leave? Like, she's not the only parent. It could be, parental leave. I do that intentionally sometimes, just to, show that other person you are supposed to also be taking care of that child,
Equally agreed.
so small habits or words that further contribute to that gender bias. We should try to address that, in addition to what Noli said.
Thank you for that, Amina. Gina?
Super agree with everything that the ladies have said, Nolu and Amina. So many great points. I'm nodding so much. I must look ridiculous with my head nodding like this, but I just, it's so relatable to me. All of it, really. So I think, what's important is that we need to acknowledge, right? Like, everyone has to acknowledge, governments, people, individuals, organizations, that the traditional workplace really wasn't designed for women to succeed, right? It's just not. And so I think, and change is happening kind of, but it's super slow despite the push, right? And we keep going, 2 steps forward, 3 steps backwards. But one thing is for sure, the digital economy and the remote flexible work, digital entrepreneurship, all of these things really can level the playing field for women, as long as they have access. And that's the challenge, right?
Absolutely. ICT can be that equalizer for everybody. And as mentioned before, technology connects us all. Thank you so much, ladies. Amina, Gina, and Nolu, you've been absolutely fantastic. I don't know if we have any questions. I don't see any hands up. So this either means this was a very effective conversation, or or the latter, which would be that people were just cruising along. But I would like to think that everybody has taken something substantial out of this conversation. So once again, thank you, Gina. Thank you, Amina. Thank you, Nolo. It's been very insightful, understanding what's going on in the Philippines, in Nigeria, and in South Africa. We look forward to more of these conversations, but as Nolo has mentioned, we actually need to back it up with some action. Jean, back to you. It has been my pleasure to be your moderator for this panel.
Thank you so much, Nawa. I'm so sorry my camera is not on my side for now. I'm not sure why. But yeah, thank you so much. We actually don't have any questions. Like you mentioned, it may be an effective conversation throughout the an hour. But we only have one, it's not more like a statement or like an agreement or acknowledgement, you can call that, from Dikaludi. She said that she agrees that teaching in indigenous languages will also create new market, as well as enabling IP for the next generations of women in technology. That's what Dikaludi said. I'm not sure that I pronounced your name right, but I hope I'm right. Do you have any questions? If we don't have any questions from the floor, then we can end our session here. It's your last opportunity, since we have a diverse of panels. Or maybe while they're typing the questions, we can just take a last group photo together before we close the Zoom. Anyone would like to turn on your camera if we are okay to do so? Do you have more? Don't be shy. So the panelists or Nawa, the moderator, could know who is behind the camera speaking or typing in the chat box.
So nice to see
I
you.
see more and more. I see more and more.
Hi, Bobby.
Hello, Emily.
Nice to see you.
Hey.
Good to see everyone with their cameras turned on. And okay, I think everyone is ready. So let's take a group photo in 3, 2, 1, smile. Okay, one more in 3, 2, 1, smile. Oh wait, I see Timothy just turns on Oh wait, no. Okay, but it's okay. I see Tandani just turns on her camera. So let's take one in 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your cooperation. And thank you so much once again, Nawa, our moderator from Jakarta Hub. We have Gina from Connected Women. We have Nulu from Code Ngawana and Amina from Datam. I hope everyone will have some important takeaway from the session today, that an hour session with our dearest panelists from all over the world. And we hope to see everyone again. Happy weekend, everyone.
Happy weekend.
Bye,
Happy
everyone.
weekend.
Thanks for joining.
Bye.
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 Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was a great conversation. That was good. Thank you, Noah.
You're most
Yeah.
welcome. I had such a
Thank you,
good
Noah.
time. Yeah.
Those were
Thank
good
you,
questions.
Patty. Yeah.
Mm.
Alrighty.
Okay. We have, it's a good turnout. We had nearly 40 people come, so that's good.
Yeah,
that
at
was
some point we
great.
did have 40. So, but I think also with internet, because some people kept on dropping out and coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So we
think
have had,
there a lot of
yeah.
technical challenges today.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's the other challenge around, tech is that, for example, we have load shedding and we're on stage 4. And so some of these things as well, I challenge that if you don't have electricity, how are you gonna
Exactly.
actually, yeah. See, some people, I'm not sure if they're trying to come back.
Okay, it's just us now.
Yeah, it's just us.
And
Okay,
wonderful
shall we-
Michelle's note taker. Thank you so much, Yoli. I think that was amazing.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
I think we managed to pull it off. So that's a great start.
Yeah, I think it was a really strong discussion. Really
Yeah.
good questions, really good answers. Great panel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we do,
So
yeah, sorry, go on.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I think would be nice for us maybe to have maybe even if it's just 30 minutes, maybe next week sometime, of reflection in terms of
Sure.
maybe areas that would like to improve. Because like, for example, on my side, it put me quite a lot of pressure because of time. And, our graphic designer is external. So balancing between giving her the hyper work and this, so just so that we can plan better, because
time.
some of this we could have, so that we say, look, if we have less than 2 weeks or 3 weeks, actually 3 weeks to plan an event, that we should rather not have it or have it at a different time. So I think things like that, so that we just make sure that all the parties involved, they're not compromised in any way. Yeah. So I think, yeah, maybe we can just have a meeting so that we can all, reflect what would we like to do better next time.
Sure.
Perhaps how do we want to show up? Because also Hyper was not really mentioned. And so I'm like,
my apologies. Yeah. But,
So So we just need to then be mindful of, just different things. I mean, it's just small things. I think overall we did very well. I know at some point we're sitting at 17 and we're like,
yeah,
it was quite shocking. But I think just in terms of improvement, I mean, there's always obviously room for improvement with anything. Yeah, but I mean, otherwise, yeah, I think also the music. I don't know what your thoughts are around when
we should have had some music in the beginning.
Yeah,
we all completely forgot about that. Yeah, it was all very quiet.
Yes.
I was actually highlighting it to Jin just now, and I said, "Hey, Jin, where's the music?"
Yeah, so
yeah,
I think
apologies on that.
Yeah, so I think it's either having music or doing some kind of icebreaker, which is why I ask people to tell us where they're from. So it could also be that. So just to keep the conversation going, because we had been chatting, which was a good conversation for people to come into. But then we then stopped because we are conscious that people are coming in.
Yeah.
But then what happens then between that time and when they're,
Yeah.
because I think just us planning it and making it an experience. So what kind of an
Yeah.
experience do you want it to be?
Sure.
So I think
Yeah, I
just
think
those minor
experience is a
things
good
that we
point.
can maybe
Yeah.
chat about. Yeah, that we're creating an experience. But I think it was a good show for the first time that we're working together.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure, but I think it was good. But I personally would like to see how I can improve or maybe support, better. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. No worries, Yoli. Just let us know when you want to meet next week, and we'll be happy to touch base.
Yeah, I think even if it's just 30 minutes and
Yeah,
hopefully
absolutely.
also Celestine can join and we can
Yeah.
all see, going forward, because I know that she does have a mandate for other events for this women's initiative on Haiba side, so that she can also let us know, when's the next one, then so that we can start thinking about if we're saying we want this to be an experience, what does that look like? And then start putting the pieces together. I really think that would be important. Maybe we can get a sponsor or whatever. Maybe we can even get people, gifts that will be sent to them. Our panelists, even if it's not the people attended, but our panelists. So I think sometimes even those little gestures, yes, they're not expecting anything from us, but like a thank you note, us just doing the small things where people say, I want to be part of this women's initiative because I feel that, they just go all out.
Feel valued, yeah.
Yeah, and they feel valued. Yeah.
I think what we will do is we will definitely look at setting the thank you note. I mean, I would have liked Celestine to be have been a bit more involved as well. I think but then I think she was traveling and then she's been unwell as well. And I think that's been a bit of a challenge. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll definitely look at it. What day works for you, Yoli?
Generally a Tuesday and a Wednesday are much better for me, but now I have to think of time zone.
No, we really only need
meeting.
We only need you, me, Jin, and possibly Michelle on the call, and Celestine, definitely.
Yeah. Or maybe let's communicate in the group so that Celestine is also part of it. So that if it means that we can't do it next week, because I know she says she's recovering. So she can't have a time together where we can all be available, and then just so that also say, look, this is the mandate and this is where things are going, this is the next date, and hopefully we can start somehow planning. So I think let's try and give a time to come on board, but let's use the group to be able to communicate.
Sure, will do.
Because on my side, my mandate from VU is to support the initiative, and not necessarily to lead it. So because I know we're all women and we lead quite naturally. We can get this, going in on time and have the next, next event. But I think so that we have order and we are organized. I don't want us to step on each other's roles.
All right.
So let's maybe just use the chat. But otherwise, around about Tuesday, Wednesdays, that's good for me, not a Monday.
Okay, so shall we just fix it? Shall we just tentatively fix it for Wednesday? Wednesday, 10 a.m. your time, 4 p.m. my time. Does that work for you, Yoli?
That can work.
Next Wednesday, 10 a.m. Okay, I'll just send you a calendar invite and I'll include Celestine in it as well. And then we'll put a note in the group and hopefully she's feeling better enough to be able to join us. Okay, and my sincere apologies if there's any shortcomings from our part as well.
She's frozen.
You're frozen, Yoli.
Okay, yes, sorry, we've got load shedding issues.
No, no. I was just saying. I said our sincere apologies for any shortcomings on our part. And I think, like if you say, a good reflection session is important for us to just touch base.
Yeah. Well, I don't think necessarily it was perhaps from you, more than it's just the timing when we're all when VU put us all together, and obviously we wanted to optimize on an opportunity, but I think so that I can improve on delivery, because for example, with the posters, the individual posters, I think there's more that we could have done. But when you've got a short space of time, you also have to be quite sensitive on social media that you can't put everything all in one go. You're trying to have some kind of so you can't put it all in one day, because then it becomes too much noise. So I think it's just for us, for all of us to agree that minimum time that we have to plan an event shouldn't be less than 3 weeks. For us to be effective. Yes, I think we're fortunate enough to be able to pull this off, but then it just means that on my end, I had to put my designer quite a lot under a lot of pressure, and she's actually not even well. She tested positive. Yeah, she's tested positive for COVID. So I don't want to have to do those kinds of things, because we all women, and we said that all of this is also around how we respect our work and what.
And
I want this, and it must be done now.
I know, and sometimes what we do, you see, we often use Canva to get our posters and our materials out fairly quickly. So I think that we have some like design stuff, then that's something that that's possibly an area that we could help out on as well, because we actually, especially because if it's not being printed, we often find that doing it on Canva is actually pretty quick. And we can actually get it out. But anyway, like you say, let's talk more on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, it was our first event together. It was the first time working together.
Yes.
So it's hard to no, I can't do this, or because we're all just trying to make it work, which I think we did. But obviously, we just want to improve going on.
And absolutely, and I really appreciate your support, Yoli. I saw one mail that came in. I remember seeing one WhatsApp that came in at like 6 o'clock my time. And I was like, what is Yoli doing up at this time? Goodness.
Yeah, because of the graphic designer that we work with. So I was like, look, we need this. And we're like, oh my head, we don't have advertising time. So all those things are important. We had a good number today. I think I mean, that was just a good number. We were not maybe necessarily looking for hundreds of people. You're always looking for quality more than just quantity. But it's just that how do we make sure that we don't put ourselves at risk, by having a short lead time in terms of advertising.
And then we did well because we had 40 people, but we could have very well had just 20 people show up. And these things happen, and these things happen. These things happen, Yoli. But it's just that we just wanted to capitalize on the IWD thing. But anyway, look, let's talk more on Wednesday. Perfect. And take down some notes and stuff. We'll talk more on Wednesday. And thank you so much for all your help, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you so much. And and I think even when we chat.
And thanks for bringing Nolu on board. I think she was very impressive. Really fantastic.
And because I think also we could also be talking about what do we want to do with this video, because we can potentially see as well how do we repurpose it. We've got it, so I think it's things like that we
we could take out sound bites from it. We could easily take sound bites from this. Actually, we are still live on YouTube. We should stop the live on YouTube.
Oh my god,
can we stop it?
Jen.
It stopped now.